All right, let's bring back our powerhouse panel. Former special assistant to President Trump, commentary editor at the Washington Times and Newsmax contributor Kelly Sadler, along with best-selling author and political analyst Mark Halperin, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member and radio host Christopher Arps. Good to see you folks again. Thanks for hanging around. Okay, former President Trump back on the stump on Saturday, drawing a huge crowd in Alabama. I just couldn't believe the size of this crowd when I saw it. Here's what the former president had to say about the dire situation and the human calamity that we're seeing in Afghanistan.
Biden's botched exit in Afghanistan is the most astonishing display of gross incompetence by a nation's leader, perhaps at any time that anybody's ever seen. Name another situation like this. Vietnam looks like a masterclass in strategy compared to Joe Biden's catastrophe. And it didn't have to happen.
Direct as usual, the former president. Mark, your thoughts on what you heard on Saturday and the former president coming out at this time?
Donald Trump's finding himself in an unusual position. He's speaking like a member of the foreign policy establishment because the views he expressed there are held by the Wall Street Journal editorial page, by lots of liberal columnists and commentators. It's across the board condemnation from the establishment, and Donald Trump's part of that now. And that's part of why Joe Biden's having such a tough time, because when the conventional wisdom is this broad-based, it's hard to change.
Yeah, Kelly, he kept on using the word surrender, I noticed, in the speech over and over, that this was a Biden surrender. Really choice words there. Your reaction to what the president had to say on Saturday?
Well, I think there's no doubt that the American public wants out of Afghanistan, and the president supported this, and he did negotiate a May 1st withdrawal. He wanted to get more troops out at the end of his term. That the American public supports. When he said that there is a surrender, it just didn't have to be this way. I'm not a military strategist, but it just makes common sense to me that you would withdraw American citizens before you take the military out. And what we have is a debacle that President Biden owns. He just told us in July that there was going to be no disorderly withdrawal, that it would be safe and it would be competent. And that's why, a lot of Americans voted for him, is because of his experience on these national security issues and that fact that he was going to lead with competency. What we're seeing right now is complete incompetence. You have, the DOD, the State Department, and the White House on different messages on different days, contradicting one another. You've got ISIS building a stronghold, Americans not being able to get to the airport, right. President Biden putting this arbitrary August 31st withdrawal date that he's not going to make in in realistic environment. And then you have the Taliban saying, hey, if you're not out by, August 31st, all bets are off. I am so concerned we're going to go into a hostage situation, that there's going to be, the reinvention of all of these terror groups, threats on American soil. And this is what Joe Biden is going to own.
Chris, the former president had a really good line. He said something to the effect of, the way that Biden did this is sort of like the captain jumping into the lifeboat first instead of being the last person off of the ship. And I thought that was really great. One of the things that I think is such a big problem for this administration is that Afghanistan is very complicated, but the problem here is very simple. And I think Kelly just mentioned it. Getting your people and all of the vulnerable folks out first before you get all of the troops out and you're ready to expose the country potentially to a Taliban takeover. Your comments on what you heard from the former president.
Yeah, President Trump is doing a great job at making contrast. It's a big story that a former president of the United States can have 40,000 people show up at a rally and wait in the rain for him for hours. And you can see it was a big deal because the mainstream media, what they chose to focus on was President Trump was booed because he advocated people get COVID shots, and they talked about that the city where the rally was held declared a COVID emergency. So I think President Trump is doing what he needs to do. I think he's going to run again in 2024. He's drawing sharp contrast, and I think his supporters and people like that.
Now, speaking of that big crowd, he got a huge round of applause. He got a big cheer when he had some choice words to say about woke culture. Take a listen.
You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke. Everything woke. It's true. Everything woke turns to okay? It's true. It's true.
Kelly, I'll go to you with that. Look, the culture war is very real, and I think it's one of the reasons why you're seeing some of these shifts in the polls that we're going to talk about a little later on. Your comments on that?
Well, everything from, General Mark Milley basically kowtowing to critical race theory and defending it and wanting to investigate white rage. And now look what we have in Afghanistan. That's a very big issue to the voters, as well as, critical race theory being taught in, schools. I think that after the COVID lockdowns, parents became more engaged in their children's curriculum and found this very alarming. And this is something that the GOP is going to use. And we've got suburban white mothers that the president did not do very well with that are coming on board. And I think if you look at the race in Virginia this year, this will be a harbinger as for things to come in 2022, because Glenn Youngkin has made this education with critical race theory one of the tenets in his campaign.
Yeah, I think people are starting to get really fed up with a lot of this leftist culture warrior stuff. Okay, thanks to our panel. We're going to see you after the break.